This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Every Tuesday, we offer you an opportunity to speak with an area elected official. And today, we welcome back to the program Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Anything you'd like to know about the goings-on in Harris County or its Commissioner's Court is welcome at talk@houstonmatters.org or call 713-440-8870. Commissioner Ellis, welcome back to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you again.
Let's start with elections. The county administrator, Isabel Longoria, is leaving this summer after the primary runoff election and after delays and a miscount in the unofficial tally of the March 1st primary. While most everyone agrees the primary election didn't go as smoothly as it should, I'm not sure there's much agreement about what to do to fix that. What would you like to see happen in advance, in particular, of the November general election?
I think an appropriate step was for us to call for a group to review what happened. You know, everybody has their own ideas of what may have happened, but clearly in my mind, a new voter suppression bill that passed in the legislature played a role because it was the first time that we were applying it. About 23,000 rejected mail ballots, as an example, in Texas. 99% of those rejected. In Harris County were rejected because of this new voter ID law. There are problems to adjust to that. They took away drive-through voting, 24-hour voting, threw up numerous roadblocks along the way. I'm not sure we gave that office enough resources when we consolidated registration and voting in one office instead of having it in two different offices and people focusing on it year-round, in part because I think the people who ran it separately probably thought they needed more employees than we should have left them with. We probably should have invested a bit more. I think new voting machines, the first time we tried them, was obviously a challenge as well. And to be honest with you, I think, it's just my impression, we'll see what comes out of a review. You had some efforts by one party, my colleagues on the Republican side, wanting this new system not to work. So they filed lawsuits to delay some of the counting. But at the end of the day, before November, hopefully before this runoff, which is coming up soon, we'll work those things out. I just think the idea of having elections, the administration of elections, and registration in the same office makes sense. I know why it was divided, and it really does go back to when Texas instituted the poll tax. The tax assessor collected your poll tax, so we took voter registration out of one office and put it in another one. But I think we'll work it out. I hope at some point on the federal level, they'll pass voting rights legislation again, put some teeth into it to stop states like Texas and numerous others from doing as much as they can to disenfranchise people. Look, whether somebody's going to vote for or against me, I've had the privilege of being in office for a number of times. I want you to have that right to make your choice. And I want to make it as easy as humanly possible for you to do it.
While you are awaiting the findings of that review, as you noted, there is a primary election runoff headed our way in May. And as I mentioned, the county election administrator, Isabel Longoria, is staying on through that election. Does it make sense to do that just in light of the fact that there were so many issues and she is planning to resign after that occurs? Why not just make a change in leadership and pursue adding staff support if you need it right now for this next election that's coming up in May?
I think it does make sense to leave her on. And to be honest with you, it would not have been my first choice to push her out as quickly. But obviously, that was a decision made by a majority of the court. We didn't vote on it. But look, I think that was a rush to judgment, and there were factors beyond her control. I also read that Brenham Center report about burnout among election administrators all around the country, in part because of the perpetuation of the, quote, big lie. And people who are in that business of running elections being vilified, not just in Texas, but all around the country. So it's not an easy thing to bring in qualified elections workers because of that. So we're going to invest more money in the short term. I've talked to her. I know her well. I was the one, as you probably recall, who encouraged us to combine election administration services and voter registration in one office, not an independently elected official, you'd have less control over a person. You couldn't call for them to resign. You'd call for it, but they wouldn't have to do it. They'd be independently elected. I want somebody who focuses year-round on the professional ethics and the issues of running elections and registering people. But if in any way I get some indication that Ms. Longoria is not up to the job for this runoff election, I'd be the first one to say she ought to go immediately. But we're going to put the support in around her. Her office did ask for more support than they were given. And it's kind of a non sequitur. You have some of my colleagues who don't want to put the support in, but want to criticize when the job is not done. But I think we'll get through. This will be a much lower turnout. I think we'll get through this next cycle pretty easily. And then it's going to be a challenge. And we may have to spend a considerable amount of money, despite the problems that came with that new law, to make sure we bring in a management team, whatever we have to do. We have to pay more money because everybody in America is having a challenge getting election workers right now because they're being vilified so much.
You mentioned this coalescing of all these different factors. In retrospect, was it a good idea to, at this time, overhaul who oversees elections and how, in the midst of working out the kinks in new voting machines and increased scrutiny on elections, the new election laws, the largest ballot around, maybe this is something that you institute a year or two later or a year or two before all of that?
Well, no, we didn't create the position of elections administrator after that state law passed. We instituted it before. And the decision was made, by the way, by someone elected. We appointed him, but the person who was elected had to resign for health reasons, Dr. Trotman, and we put Chris Hollins in. That decision was made before this elections administrator got on board in terms of which machines we'd use. And I'm not saying they were the wrong machines. It was Hart out of Austin. We're their largest client. It was not clear to us that we would have 2 pages or you'd have problems with the cartridges to load in the second ballot. It's going to be a requirement everywhere in the country that you go to a paper ballot. We opted to do it before that was clearly being required. But that decision was made in advance of that new state law passing. And it was someone appointed after someone who's elected had to resign that we made the decision to do an elections administrator. It was always going to be a challenge. I don't think the transition was the problem. I was surprised we didn't have more applicants than we did have, I think in part because of the nature of politics having changed in Harris County so quickly that we didn't have as many national applicants as I would have thought. But look, every urban county in Texas has an elections administrator. They combine the two, other than Travis County. And I think now that the person who's been in that office for so long, elected in Travis County, has retired, I suspect they're going to go to the notion of an elections administrator, someone that a separate board, independent board of 5 people, both party chairs, the county clerk, the county judge, tax assessor pick, but it takes 3 votes of commissioners court to decide you want to have a professional operation of an elections administrator. I think we'd have had these challenges regardless of whether we had an elections administrator or not. It could have been worse if you'd had registration coming out of one office and then the administration of elections coming out of another office, while that office also had to do its traditional ministerial function of keeping all of our records, our minutes, and everything we do as a commissioner's court.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. We're talking with Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, and we welcome your questions and comments for him at talk@houstonmatters.org or 713-440-8870. We have an email from Taylor, who lives in Acres Homes. Taylor writes, the area where I live has a sort of alleyway, Ferguson Street, that would be great for a walking or bike trail. My neighbors use this all the time to walk and bike, but there is no trail. What's the appropriate way to send you a proposal for such a trail in the Acres Homes area?
Go to rodneyellis.com. Work with the city as well. I'm in Washington today. I was getting a great briefing on what this new bipartisan infrastructure bill offers in terms of alternatives to traditional roads and freeways. And in fact, I was a little late hopping on this call because Congresswoman Jackson Lee called me up to say, when are you coming over for this meeting with federal transportation officials? I'm going to do that afterwards. But look, we put in unprecedented amount of money from Precinct 1 into the city of Houston, as well as unincorporated Harris County on trails. I'm big on it. One of the leading causes of death for us is obesity. It's what we eat. So we got to figure out how to eat better, do something about food deserts, eat less, and we got to get more active. But I'm a big proponent of trails, and I'm sure they're asking because they probably, if that person follows me on social media, I did 50 miles Sunday, and I hope to do 2 to Houston. And if I have time, I'm going to try to sign up for the 60 miles and get an extra 8 in on this Sunday. But we'll work with you. Bayou Greenways is an exciting deal. More is coming. That you can. I'm trying to connect us along city streets, working with the city, county putting up the bulk of the money, Precinct 1, to connect these greenways. All of them go in the same direction to the Gulf of Mexico. I'm a walker or biker, but I don't want to go the same direction to get a place and the same route back. I want to see something different. So we're working on it, and work with us.
Richard's on the line from Northwest Houston. Richard, what's your question for Commissioner Ellis?
Good morning, Mr. Ellis. You had that county grant program, and you had Lyft administering it, and I couldn't understand the points and how they was gathering it, because I know when it came out, we applied. My wife applied, and
this is for a low interest loan or no interest loan for your business.
No, it was that grant program you had. Yes, sir.
Your direct assistance or for a business?
Small business.
Direct to you or to your business? So small business. Well,
yes,
we didn't have. Yeah, we took the federal money, and we decided to team up with the city, get an independent group to administer it, because we just didn't have the ability to ramp up that quick to dole that money out. And we came up with an equity framework. We didn't do it on the basis of first come, first serve, because sometimes that means that people who are better prepared, who know or have access to the internet, are the first ones to apply. But the short of it is, we just didn't have enough money. I appreciate our federal partners and the money that they gave us from the Biden administration in particular to help us deal with what was happening. But look, we're doing even more of it. We're also creating a new program for minority and women-owned businesses and small businesses as well with Harris County. We're looking at a program for disabled veterans as well, something the county didn't have in the past before the new leadership came on board. City did it a long time ago, and we've expanded that to Metro and the Port. Harris Health is going to do it. We're encouraging our school districts and community colleges. We're going to put up the money from the county so they can do a disparity study to see if they are not touching all aspects of our community. And then we're going to encourage them, if they take this money from the county to do this thing called a disparity study, then you got to adopt a program that addresses those disparities. So work with us. I know it's a challenging, particularly our small businesses, our minority and women-owned businesses were just devastated by the pandemic, and many devastated from the flood. So we're doing as much as we can. Equity for us at Harris County is much more than just the 6 letters in that word.
Kevin is on the north side. Kevin, what's your question for the commissioner?
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I just been kind of looking at the voting environment that's been going on around the state of Texas, the voting maps, and I looked at, some of the county maps, and I was just interested in how, people are, I guess, it's a toxic area right now. The state of Texas, as a matter of fact, a lot of the Democrats on the state level have been claiming voter suppression with those maps. But I just find it interesting, and I just want to see what your take is on it. I've called the show several times because as a taxpayer, I really think that we need to put more emphasis on the fire department in the city of Houston. And I've called the show a couple of times just to try to ask some politicians or people that are in power how they feel about this certain issue. And I just want to see what your take was, because as a voter, I voted for Proposition B to pass. I voted for that. But the mayor decided on his own that he did not accept my vote. To me, that's voter suppression. So I wanted to see have you been upset by the voter suppression of Sylvester Turner with that particular issue? Because nobody has said anything about it.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate the call. Commissioner?
Kevin, I had the privilege of starting my career as a Houston City Council member in 1984. And I was there for 6 years. And then when I went to the state capitol for 26 years, I focused on state issues. I'm in county government now. The county is larger than 15 states, but that's a city issue, not a county issue. I've got great friends in the fire department. Sounds like you probably know some of them who came out of Worthing High School with me, but I really hadn't gotten into that issue. The state dealt with some of it. I always felt like we'd been better off if a lot of those issues were dealt with on the local level instead of the state level. I used to tell them when I was at Austin, I didn't go to Austin to make that the super Houston City Council. So you have to work that out. Wish I could give you a more encouraging answer, but you got to work that out on the local level. I have more than I can say grace over with the headaches that I have in the county in terms of flood resilience, economic opportunity, public safety, voting rights, transportation issues. I have enough to say grace over the stuff I'm responsible for.
All right, Stuart's in Southwest Houston. Stuart, what's your question or comment?
My comment is to Mr. Ellis. During your opening statements when you came on the air this morning, I think you were right on target with what you said. I do not think that Ms. Longoria should have resigned her job because she was being pressured by Commissioner Ramsey. I voted during the primaries, and I had problems with this new system, the machine, because I had 2 paper ballots that I had to use. You should expect some type of problems when you go into a new system. Therefore, for Commissioner Ramsey to be so hard on this lady like he was, I think it was politically motivated. He wanted her out of there. And quite frankly, if she's listening to this, I would tell her, keep her job, because it's only natural to expect some bugs in the system when it's new. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the call and for the comment.
I think the biggest issue, to be honest with you, was not the machines. It was not Ms. Longoria. It was the new law. And that law was intended to do just what it did, to discourage people from voting, to make it more difficult. I mean, what's wrong with giving people water or putting people in your car to take them to go and vote? What's wrong with 24-hour voting? What's wrong with drive-through voting? You know, at this day and age, you can vote if you're abroad. If you're in Afghanistan, Iraq, you can vote. They vote electronically. Now, the tragedy in our country and in our state is certain people don't want certain other groups to vote. And look, it's a very human element. It's wrong and it's selfish. For most people want just folks to vote who are going to vote for them. I really don't want that. I mean, you know, I've been privileged, and if I lose, my little feelings will be hurt, but it'd be okay. They tell me my wife and kids are pretty nice people. If I wasn't in politics, I'd get to spend more time with them. But I think it was that new law with those restrictions. You think look at what we did in the country, Craig. We were the envy of the nation. Deep in the heart of Texas, in the South of all places, Jim Crow country, legacy of Jim Crow, Harris County had record turnout. And then that state law was directed at what we did. There was no fraud in the voting in Harris County. We spent money, by the way, an unprecedented amount of money, because we wanted to encourage people to participate in this democracy. People fought and died for our right to vote. People are dying right now because their ability to govern themselves is being taken away in distant lands across the world. And we look at our neighbors in Kiev and wonder, how do they have the resiliency to continue to fight, even when the odds are against them? And here we are in this country, people applauding the fact they're doing as much as they can to suppress the vote. I think, let's let the review come back. I think it's that new law that created most of the hurdles that we have to adjust to. And I think that was the biggest problem.
Commissioner, I know you need to go. You mentioned a meeting that you need to have, and I was hoping maybe we could.
You know, I don't want to be late with Congresswoman Sheila
I
Jackson
understand.
Lee or Mr. Al Green or Miss Fletcher. I'm going to go see some of my Republican colleagues, many of whom I knew when I was in the Senate, by the way, who've gone on to Congress.
We've
Thank
had
you for having me, Craig.
well, absolutely. We've had some emails come in. Can we forward them to you for your
Sure,
office to respond?
please do.
Excellent.
Please do.
Rodney Ellis is
Thank you.
Commissioner representing Precinct 1 in Harris County. Commissioner Ellis, thank you.
Thank you.